Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, soon to be joined by our beat writer covering the Steelers, Chris Halleck. Today was day 2 of the Steelers OTAs, and a lot like day 1 and all the days to come, there's not going to be a whole lot of news out of these things. Some players will speak for the first time in a few months, and they're going to say stuff that maybe they hadn't said before, but for the most part, you're not going to be getting big old headlines out of anything like this. It's about orientation from the players and coaches' perspective, and from the reporter's perspective, it's about dialogue. One of the dialogues that I had at OTAs was with Deshawn Elliott. If you are not familiar with Elliott's 2024 season, beyond, hey, he seemed like he was okay, then it bears some repeating or reminding of the kind of year that he just had for the Steelers. It was through the roof. It was mind-boggling. It was record-setting, really, when you get into tackle efficiency. If that sounds a little bit too newfangled for some of you, I'll explain what that is. Elliott had 108 tackles in 111 opportunities. This was over 15 games. That gave him a tackle efficiency rating of 97.3%, according to not Pro Football Focus or any other independent thing, but the NFL Next Gen Stats. That efficiency, that 97.3%, was the highest efficiency rating for anybody at the safety position in the history of NFL Next Gen Stats. Depending on who you believe, depending on how you analyze or how you define a missed tackle, he had either 1 or 3. Okay, think about this. This is out of 111 attempts. He brought his guy down either 110 or 108 times, depending on the various things. But again, officially, for the NFL's sake, it was 108, which is still mind-blowing that happened. Now, he did play closer to the line of scrimmage. He did get utilized in a way that was more akin to a linebacker. But if that's all he was a linebacker, if that's all that he brought to this defense, that's fantastic. It's stupendous. I asked him about this, and I did so in the context that Elliott's already working with coaches to become a little bit more aggressive at taking the football away. So here's our talk that we had. Deshawn Elliott.
When you look at the season that you had, the 3 missed, not even missed tackles, the advanced statistics on what you did last season were amazing. Can you appreciate that? You think you can improve upon it?
Yeah, I can definitely improve my game all around. They did a pretty decent job with the tackling, but I didn't get the ball more. I got to be a bigger leader for this defense, whether it's vocally or being able to get guys aligned, for us to be able to make sure we're all on our P's and Q's. But, it's more than just me. The reason why I was able to do that because I have guys in front of me like PQ and Cam and TJ, Herb, KB. They make it easier on me. And all I can do is thank God for the position that Mike T has given me, the opportunity to play this game. Because, I've been to a lot of places, but it's the only place where I feel like home. So I appreciate them so much for giving me the opportunity.
Sacrifice some of that tackling at the risk of going for the football? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Depends on what's going on. Like, if I'm at the point of the pack of the ball, I'm going to go for the ball, which I was last year. But sometimes, hey, I just got to, last year I played around the line of scrimmage a lot. So yeah. I was just flying to the ball. So when you fly to the ball, you end up with 10, 11, 12 tackles a game. So I'm trying to take some of that back, maybe get at some to linebackers a little bit and get more takeaways, more interceptions, more forced fumbles, maybe some more sacks. So it's a new season, new opportunities, but I'm excited.
Now, as you heard me challenge the young man there, challenge is too strong a term. I at least asked, like, if you are chasing footballs around, and that's a Mike Tomlin thing, and I understand that. I respect that. The Steelers have been a very, very good takeaway defense for a long time. But no, you don't mess with that. You don't say, hey, you who just had the record-setting tackle season, and you who are a part of this defense that we're trying to prioritize run defending within. Why don't you change some things up to fit more of the way that I'd like to see us play? And you hear Elliott saying, I can leave some of the tackles for the linebackers, or I can try this, or I can try that. Useless knowledge says the Steelers love splash. Great. Wonderful. And whenever it does happen, I'm going to be the first one to say, hey, isn't it awesome that Nick Herbig went and smacked that ball out of that guy's hands, because that's the way TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith taught him how to do it, and that's the way Tomlin preaches it. Sure. And I can't have it both ways. But I also got to look at Elliott specifically and say, no. All he did was bring guys down again and again and again and again. Frank Mancuso asks, how many passes defense did Sean have? I don't have that number. Maybe somebody else will. But if you do come up with it, make sure that you include how many times he was targeted as the defensive back. Again, you heard Elliott himself tell me that he was up closer to the line. He wasn't playing a traditional safety type role. And then there's the other part of this, which is if Elliott is your second safety and he's up that close, that's part of the reason that you have Minkah Fitzpatrick playing 500 miles off the ball. And that doesn't help you either, because you know who else is really, really, really good at tackling? Minkah is. But you're having him play way back there. So there are questions as it relates to this secondary, a lot of which relate in turn to the corners, to Darius Slay and Joey Porter. And we're going to talk about that when we're joined by Chris when we come back.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Chris, did I actually say that Minkah was playing 500 miles off the ball?
You might. If anything, that's being a little generous. It's probably more like 5,000 miles off the ball.
Torsha Jackson says that.
Oh no, we're not doing this.
We're not doing this.
I was
especially not because they would walk 500 more.
I was joking with Jose Negron, who was with us, or with me on the South Side today covering OTAs, and I said I'm going to get one of the signs that warehouses have hung up, days without work incidents or days without nonsense in the workplace. I'm gonna get one of those signs just so we could stay on track.
Oh man.
And I'm gonna, I might get a second one just for the chat to see if they go off the rails every day.
like they could do it so easily too. Like Matt Rizzo asks, "Did you ever go to the Electric Banana?" The appropriate question, Matt, is, "Did I play at the Electric Banana?" I did. My band, The Long Afternoon, played at the Banana, and we had our synthesizer set up on an ironing board. I'm not kidding. because we wanted people to think like, oh yeah, they're the guys that they play the ironing board.
Oh boy. By the way, I looked it up.
Oh, the stories from the banana. But okay, go ahead.
I'm sure it was a 6 passes defense for Deshawn Elliott. By the way,
6, but he wasn't targeted much, was he?
I didn't see the number of targets, but
Okay, so 6 PDs is a pretty nice number for a season.
Yeah, I it was the second most of his career, like for in a season. His career highs is 7, but he also had 2 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries. So
this is a player, man. Dude's a player. Mark Cunningham wants to know why there's no extension in place for him. For anybody who doesn't know, he's got 2 years. He's got 1 more year, but he was signed to a 2-year, $6 million deal. So he is a bargain and a bleeping half.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's 28 years old.
Yep.
So I don't how old that is in safety language is a little bit tough to pin on him because he's not dealing in straightaway blazing speed.
Yeah.
So he might have more years to give because he is more of a tackling type safety.
Yeah, I was thinking like because I was doing a chalk talk on Deshawn Elliott and his play, and in that I did kind of broach the question like what would you do like a 3-year extension so that he's under contract for the next 4 years?
Yeah,
I mean that has him on the team through age 32. I think probably most of the time safeties don't drop off that much in their early 30s. So who knows?
Yeah, it seems reasonable here. We have some hard-hitting insight here from
how would you know?
Or whatever it says. He did not look good on the first day. I am going to have to insist that you write back to us and let us know how you know this such a thing.
Seriously.
Okay? Please, I'm begging you. We'll go easy on you. We're not here to pick on you, whatever.
No.
Just have to know how anybody would know that he did not look good on the first day. And then from there, what constitutes not looking good?
At OTAs.
At OTAs, walkthrough in football and shorts. Okay? Please get back to us here. Then he says they're letting him set his value for free agency bidding. Well, that's not a great way to do business.
No.
Now, if you're counting on Elliott to have some great big drop off in 2025, also not a great way to do business.
Right.
Just keep building up everybody, build up their morale. Now, do you want to make them too complacent and then they're not playing for a contract? He doesn't strike me as the complacent type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, it comes back with us, Nick Faribaugh, who's a mutual friend of ours, will say that he didn't look good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth with somebody else on this event, but reporters are not allowed to describe what it is that's happening in practice settings. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I have not seen what Nick did or didn't say. I don't know any of this confirmed, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Secondly, it's OTAs. It's people in shorts. There's not really like CJ says, how do you evaluate that? You evaluate that, I guess, if you choose to.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can say other than the one exception that I make for these, this is just me, is wide receivers. Because if you put a ball up in the air, you can go up and make a play on it. Now, you're still not fearing getting clocked by somebody or a headshot or whatever. So even that's different. But you can go up and make an athletic play. You can make a diving catch. You can make a one-handed grab. You can make a great cut on a route. Other than that, scratch pretty much every other position off the list for what it is that you can look at in an OTAs. You agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, it's got to be pretty much the only way that you can really take something away. Yeah, Frank says basically it's a walkthrough. I mean, you do go through full speed stuff, but it's not. I'm telling you, it is like I don't even know if this is a thing nowadays anymore, but at least back in the day when apps started becoming a real thing, like on smartphones, there was always the full version of the app and then there was a light version. That still might be a thing. I don't know. But this is absolutely the light version of practice in the regular season.
Oh yeah. Practice is more intense than this.
Not a light version of football, a light version of practice in like what we cover throughout the regular season. So this is pretty much the only two extremes that I would ever say to define a player as either looking good or looking bad is if they are looking bad as if they show up out of shape, absolutely out of shape, and just literally cannot move. Or they look really good if literally they just put their hand on the football. Like if they're a defensive back, like Mike Hilton did back in the day, like when he was coming out as an undrafted free agent, and he literally put his hand on the football every time it was thrown in his direction. It's got to be something like that in which you could go, okay, he looks pretty good. But even at that point, still take it with a grain of salt because this is still OTAs.
Yeah. We don't do that here. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's silly and it's not whatever. And again, that's got nothing to do with Nick can do. He's got his own business. He can do whatever it is that he wants. Mr. Buku says, I finally became a member. It only took a few seconds. Sounds like we paid him. Listen to all the shows. Much love. It's much appreciated. It's actually really cool. dkps.net/join is the web address. It's right under Chris's smiling mug over there. You can see it. dkps.net/join. You have to type it up into your URL. It's not something that's clickable right here. Daniel says that I heard someone showed up out of shape. What position? That was us. Okay. And we're not 100% sure of it. Okay, it was something that was visual. It was something that was from the side. And heck no, we're not throwing hints out about it. But remember that players can change positions. Players can change roles. Coaches can change expectations for the players' conditioning levels. So for us to observe from the sideline that someone has a lot more weight on or a lot less weight on doesn't mean anything until we can put the whole puzzle together. That said, the program is daily. So you're going to get what we have that day. Broderick Jones, for example, is clearly a lot trimmer, and you can just see that from a distance. That's being openly acknowledged. And Broderick, he sounded like he was getting ready for business. Chris, is what I wanted to hear from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the fact that he brought up the left tackle stuff on his own kind of really
so different. He'd never do that in the past.
Yeah. That really
never wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, but that really tells me, and the fact that he said that the last couple of years, like having to play right tackle and having to be a swing, and he called it funky, and so it's just again bringing the left tackle stuff up on his own. You can see how much it means to him, and whether that's just because you're being anointed as the left tackle. Obviously, but he talked about how natural the position was, but then he also talked about, his approach to the offseason in general, which is there's a thought process behind it. I'm going to show up more trim so that as I put on weight, I can continue to put on weight instead of showing up heavy, losing the weight, and then having to add it right back on. It's an actual process to see, okay, do I need to add more strength? Do I need to add more weight so I'm harder to move? But if I can get the job done at a slimmer weight, then that makes me more agile. That makes me more, it gives me a better ability to move. And guess what? The Steelers are a team that's going to want to run the football in which the offensive linemen move. So that's important too.
Lots of commentary on saying that somebody looks good or doesn't look good in an OTA setting. Where I understand, Mo Miller says fans love to overreact to everything, and that there's not anything wrong with that. It just means you're passionate about the team and you want as much knowledge, you want as much insight as possible. But I also can tell you that one of the benefits, whether anybody wants to see it this way or not, of having reporters at these things is hopefully that there's some perspective to it. I'm going to give you a small example. One player that one draft pick that absolutely everybody has fallen in love with, okay, who shall not be named, but don't overthink it. didn't necessarily make okay, Chris saw it too. Okay. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Okay. It says nothing about his future in one direction or the other, whether or not he aced every play or whether or not he just completely blew every play. It just doesn't matter. When we get to Latrobe, this context will change.
Yeah.
You will hear from us. Hey, that needed to be here. That needed to be there. This kid's really struggling. Or, wow, wait till you see Derek Harmon next to Cam Hayward or whatever. And we can do all that.
Yeah.
Because it's closer to something that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And even then, I'll do the same thing when we get closer to training camp and even get to training camp.
Mm-hmm.
The first few days, first off, it's still football in shorts. They don't even go live contact until after a few days. And even then, like, there are some, places that will track quarterback stats in training camp. And I can't begin to tell you how ridiculous that is, because it doesn't matter. Like, if Kenny Pickett, when Kenny Pickett was going for doing that and he was throwing an interception, everybody would, want to, jump off a bridge because our first round quarterback sucks. He's throwing interceptions in training camp. What led to the interception? That's what matters. Did it lead to the interception because he just flat out made the wrong read, or is he trying to work out a timing with this receiver and it's just not there yet? That's what training camp is all about. It's all about a learning process, whether you're a rookie or whether you're a vet on a new team. It's still a learning process for you. And so, and I even saw there was one, I don't know who it was, and I'm not going to, even if I did, I'm not going to sit here and slander people, but I saw something of a charted statistical breakdown of all the quarterbacks in Cleveland for OTAs today.
Yeah, I mean, because they have Deion's kid.
It's crazy.
And they have Kenny, and they have, isn't Flacco there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Flacco. So they actually have something of an entertaining, if nothing else, camp when it comes to the quarterback position.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It really doesn't. But I also understand that in this business that we're in, that the whole, everybody says, clickbait and whatever else here, it works. I mean, if we put out, oh my goodness, like a how so-and-so looked thing. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's all anybody would read, but there also has to be some judgment involved.
Yeah.
This stuff just really just does not matter. Jay Mood says football in Hoochie Daddy shorts. What's a Hoochie Daddy shorts? Is that what those are?
I have no idea.
Is there a name for them? I mean, they're just like lightweight
sometimes
shorts.
They're like cut off, like the football pants that they would wear with pads in them.
Yeah.
They're just cut off.
That's what Minka was wearing yesterday.
Yeah.
And he wasn't alone. Jorge Rico says, let's go hit the like button. Only 89 likes on YouTube, 411 watching. We have 981 watching total. And likes, they help. Short shorts is what Jay Moods calls them. You mean like old school basketball shorts from the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson shorts, or maybe going back even further, like Wilt the Stilt shorts. And we're going to keep going with this. How's CA3 looking? Does he have a leg up there? Guys, I don't know if you're doing this on purpose now. There's just nothing to say. They're walking through most of these drills. They're the only thing that you can look at. Okay. The only thing that you can look at to an extent that matters. I mentioned wide receivers. You also can look, relatively speaking, at health.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You also can inquire about health. I did that yesterday after watching Cam Johnston boom a few punts. He's coming off a pretty gross injury. Okay. He looked great. Okay. Why do I say that? Not because he angled his punt inside the 20 or something, but because he looks like he can function in a football sense, right?
Yeah.
Cole Holcomb, somebody asked about him earlier. If there are issues with Holcomb related to, talk about a gruesome injury, if there are issues related to that, they're not either visible and there's not anybody saying, oh no, there's concern about Holcomb. I say this a lot, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. They did let Landon Roberts go. And you can say, well, sure, they brought Malik Harrison in to take Landon's place. They're kind of different players. The real player who's going to be taking Landon's spot on the roster is Holcomb.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was even talking with Jose, not just showing him the ropes, but giving him all the context on as many players as possible. We're having this conversation about the inside linebackers, and I said, listen, Mario asked, how's Arthur Smith looking? Is he calling plays good? That's funny. But I was talking with Jose. I was like, listen, if this is a situation in which Cole Holcomb returns to probably even 90 to 95% of his form before he got injured,
that's meaningful.
That's your number 2 linebacker next to Queen. I mean, I'm sorry, Peyton Wilson. Like Peyton Wilson will be the nice guy that can come in as the number 3, be a really solid number 3, come in on coverage downs
and make plays. He can do things too.
Right.
One of the interesting things about this inside linebacker group in general, and you could even retroactively include Landon in it, is they're really different. This is a really totally different skill sets here with these guys.
Yeah, Queen. The one thing I would say that is consistent among at least Queen and Holcomb is that they are good two-way linebackers. They can defend the run and the pass pretty well. I think Queen's a little bit more of a coverage linebacker, while Holcomb's a little bit more of a run stuffer, but they can do both. Now, Peyton Wilson obviously can really fly and move around really well, but Peyton Wilson's had a few different run blitzes that he executed really well last year. So I don't want to take anything off of any of their plates. The one thing that all 3 of those guys, and Malik Harrison to a certain extent as well, that they all have is that they're very, very athletic. All of them are. And not saying Landon Roberts wasn't, but when you compared everybody that they had last year, Landon Roberts was probably the least of all of them, but Landon Roberts could also hit harder than all of them by like tenfold.
Landon had his specialties.
Yes.
Landon, I shared this with him when he was here in the studio with us last year doing a show. And I said that one of you in the commenting community had suggested that he should be in the Hall of Fame for short yardage situations and goal line situations. And he kind of like nodded like, I kind of should. If you think about this stuff, was it in the Dallas game where he went?
I mean, he could have won the game with that play.
He could have won every highlight in the National Football League for that weekend with if the Steelers had prevailed that day. And as it was, I think they got screwed out of something in that same memory's a little bit fuzzy that ended up negating that whole thing here. Mike asks here, first of all, thanks to Macaroni Salad for dropping $5 in. Well, that'll get us some macaroni salad. Mike says, who looks the happiest to be back? I'm going to take this one in the relative sense. Okay. Even though he's not the kind of guy who tends to look happy, he's not an outwardly kind of guy. The biggest difference in temperature is Roman Wilson. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Roman he was a guy that was just kind of keeping to himself and whatever. And now it was like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. You can call that happy, you can call that something else or whatever, but I really appreciated that. Who do you have there in this category, Chris?
I'm gonna go back to Cole Holcomb again, but the one I'm gonna say it in a similar way.
Also, not necessarily always a happy guy.
No, not he's not out there with a smile on his face or anything like that. But just watching him go from one drill to another, he is intensely focused. That's the one thing I can say, just going from one thing to another, is that everything looks like it's business as usual to him. Like he didn't just go through an entire year of having a rehab and injury while missing half the previous season. Like he just missed a season and a half due to one injury. And again, watching him go through that and talking with him on a regular basis of him going through that, and then to see him out there as if nothing ever happened, that it's just, oh, but this is just football in May, as it always is. That's, to me, that's telling. He doesn't look like he's somebody who's just happy to be. It just is business as usual. To me, that's almost just as impressive as somebody being happy to be back.
I love this from James Fairfield. Asks, what happens to Mark Robinson this year? Those are kind of quieter now, the M-Rob questions. I had a couple minutes with him this week at OTAs, and I asked him, what's your next step? What's your next level? And he used to have really quick answers for that. He used to say, well, I need to focus on my pass coverage, because now he's still, he's an inside linebacker, and in the modern NFL, you have to be able to drop back. And he has acknowledged openly that this is not a strength. It was never a strength. M-Rob is exactly what he is, and what he's been, which is he is a human missile. When he sees the target in front of him, he will assault it with force, and he will do it down low, and he will bring that individual down. He might do so emphatically. So I asked him this, what's your next level? And he goes, oh man, I don't know. And I go, dude, you're going to have to come up with a better answer than that at some point, not for me, but for whatever people in this building ask you. But I really get the sense, and I don't say this in any even semi-disrespectful tone here. He's been in the league for a little while now. Okay. He knows who he is. He knows what he is, and he loves his job. He loves his role. He is not the complainer. Oh no, I'm stuck on special teams. He comes from the Tyler Matakevich school of, hey, I'm here. I'm a football player. Who needs me? And I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, no. And listen, with the state of the position, that's the role he's got to embrace. He's got to embrace whatever role he's given, because now you've got Carson Brunner coming in, who, despite some fan theories, is not just here because of his dad. He is here because he was a really good special teams linebacker at Washington. He can play, and he can play on special teams. And so that's going to be a competition there. Now, granted, of all the competitions in training camp, that's probably a little further down on my list, when we're talking about the fifth linebacker possibly, but it's still going to be one of those, when you're talking about trimming the roster from 90 to 53, that's going to be a position, because Mark Robinson could very well not end up on the 53-man roster.
That's also something that was seen as a possibility last year, but then not bringing the actual Matakevich back, and the Steelers did not, would bode well, I would think, for M-Rob here. Charlie K says, who do you think will make the biggest step this year? I can do Roman Wilson for all of these. Really.
Yeah.
He was it five snaps?
So it was
something like that. The one game in where I don't even remember where we were. Was it Vegas or Landover or something? But it can be him. I'm going to go a little bit off the wall for my pick with this one, and it's not a prediction or whatever. It's just it's not even necessarily an expectation. It's just a feel thing. Biggest step is going from the college ranks to the NFL. Okay. It's minor league football to major league football. And as such, I'm going to take Caleb Johnson, because he is so heavily equipped to be that guy from a weapon standpoint, from an experience standpoint, oddly enough, because everything they did at Iowa was built around him offensively. Everything. He's very comfortable being that guy. Some of the way we've seen him carry himself between rookie minicamp and OTAs would also suggest that. Go ahead. Your turn, Chris.
I'm going to go ahead and say Broderick Jones. I think.
No, you just went there.
I did go there. And honestly, the reason why I went there is because I don't think it could get much worse.
You couldn't even be positive on this?
I couldn't. If he's an average left tackle, let's just put it in that context there. If he's an average left tackle next year, that's a big step. Seriously.
It really would be, actually.
Seriously, because if you get average play where he's not in the top 10 or 15 in pressures allowed, and he's not in the top 10 or 15 or even 20 in penalties called against him, and he's kind of right in the middle of the pack on all of that, I'll kind of take that for what the Steelers need on offense. They don't need a guy who's going to wall off every single edge rusher he'll ever see, but you need a guy who can pretty much just show up, do the job, and be able to just move on from that. Now, if you rarely hear 77 called on game days, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So
like his rookie year.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, like, if he's, and I think that's very, very, I think it's definitely attainable for him to have that kind of a step this year. And again, so much of football is up here.
Yep.
And if all of that was for him, was just needing to move from the right side to the left side, even though it probably shouldn't have been that, because right tackle should be, for somebody of his stature and abilities, a little bit easier to play. If all it takes was that mental hurdle to get over, I mean, there's a reason why they traded up to get him.
Yeah, or accepting even that it was a hurdle in the first place, which is something that he would constantly deny, versus how he addressed it today head on.
First few days has been all right. You know, I'm just glad to get back out here with the guys, you know, working on my techniques, being back on the left side, you know, so just trying to get back used to everything and, you know, just getting that second-hand nature back with everything that's going on over there and making sure everything's right in my head, not thinking I'm still on the right side. So, you know, this is a great time for me to, you know, just keep building on what I've been doing all off season and, you know, my whole life really, and, you know, just continue to just get better.
If anybody wants to read anything into any of the very, very limited footage that emerges from events like this, read into, feel free to do this, what you see from Brod there in terms of how hard it looks like he just worked. Because he is doing that. I'm not just talking about OTAs. I'm talking about the various workouts. The Steelers overlords are very, very pleased with him. In a fair context here, he has to go and show it. To date, they've been very, very, very happy with him. Now, obviously, he still has to get that done.
Yeah, he does. I mean, and again, and he was asked, you know, Maxwell brings up, he also looks more confident and happy. And he was asked about the confidence level, and he said that he's always confident. But again, he brought up the left side when he was asked about that. He wasn't asked about what's your confidence level because you're on the left side. He's just, what's your confidence level right now?
And he brought it up.
And he brought it up again. So when you keep hearing that from him on his own volition, it means something to him. And when it means something to him, it's like, okay, this has been kind of speculated, like maybe Broderick's not figuring it all out because he's playing on the wrong side, you know, and Broderick will be the one who ultimately tells that story. If he moves to the left side and still doesn't get it done, then it doesn't look like it mattered what side you played. But if he goes to the left side and all of a sudden in year 3, you see a jump from regression in year 2 to average play in year 3 or above average play, or holy shnikes, this guy looks like a legitimate first round left tackle. That's where you start to, okay, what did they, as all it took was to unlock him was to move him to left tackle.
James Chamberlain suggests that Broderick Jones could become the comeback player of the year. I suggest that award be permanently discontinued. The moment they handed that thing to Flacco instead of Damar Hamlin, it needed to be gone forever. Okay, I'm not being callous about this, but Damar Hamlin had a comeback. Okay, he wasn't even alive. Was it 2 or 3 times over the course of those 24 hours? I want to say it was 3 times.
But even the fact it happened once is just.
Well, I mean, I'm partially being, you know, lighthearted about it because we can be that now since Damar, you know, thankfully is all the way back. Okay. And I mean all the way back. But you give that thing to Flacco Even Flacco said, like, what did I come back from? I came back. I sucked last year and I didn't suck this year. Like, what? How is that comeback player? I mean, comeback player should be you actually overcome, in this case, death.
Yeah.
You know, comeback player. Look, DeMar is the comeback player of the forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
When it comes to this stuff here.
I don't know how in the heck that happened. Seriously.
It's almost like it's a punchline to a Bill Burr joke that Cameron Johnston would tell us.
Seriously.
You cannot look at him. I can't do it. I tried yesterday. I can't. It's not. I try to tell people. I tell my kids about this because my kids met the real Bill Burr just about, I don't know, a few weeks ago. He's in a Broadway play. And like, apparently he was outstanding. It was in, I think it was Glenn Ross.
Okay.
Like an actual live action version of that, which would probably be spectacular, right? And after the plays, maybe I've been to a Broadway play. I don't remember. You can tell it left a big impact on me. But it's like my daughter's thing, right? And you can go meet the actors. That's one of the things. You can just walk right down and say hello to them. And they met Bill Burr. Apparently he's really like not a big dude.
Cameron Johnson's not a big dude either. Like,
okay, but apparently Cameron Johnson is a giant next to the real Bill Burr. So if you go down there and you meet the real Bill Burr, and I tell them, listen, the Steelers punter, he doesn't look like Bill Burr. He actually is him. This is just what he does when he's not doing stand-up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's
Bill greatest, by the way.
he is really funny. He's definitely up. I have a few different comedians that I probably like a little bit more, that are a little bit more my style, but no, he's really funny. There have definitely been a few different of his routines that definitely get me in stitches. But
Bill Burr does have some resemblance to the Smashing Pumpkins guy.
Corgan. Can't think of his first name. I don't know why.
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
Billy Corgan?
Billy. It was Billy. That's right.
Yeah, Billy Corgan. Yeah.
Danny wants to know when I started covering the Steelers. It depends on your definition of that. In 1997, the Post-Gazette assigned me to cover the opposing team. The Steelers would play their games, and that was home and road. So I was doing all the games. That was back in 97. I had also gotten started on hockey, doing Penguins at the time. In 2005, I had all of that blown up by taking on, because I wanted it, baseball. I just wanted to have my own beat. I didn't want to be the third, fourth, fifth guy there, which is a tough thing to do at a place like that, because there was a lot of people that were really deeply, deeply, deeply entrenched there at the time. So that's my answer. And then once I started this company, the DK Pittsburgh Sports, I went right back to doing all the Steelers all the time.
Yeah.
So how do you define that? Did I start in 97? You know what I mean? I did a lot of it there. So I did games at Three River Stadium and stuff like that. But then, ultimately it was all this. Here comes the boss right now. She just walked in. You met Bill Burr, right? The kids did?
I did.
Oh, she met him too.
Thought he was a joke.
Yeah. Oh, no. He punts for the Steelers.
I made a joke and he didn't laugh, so I don't like him.
Wait a second. You made a joke to Bill Burr and he didn't laugh? That's why you don't like him?
Yeah.
You think he doesn't have a sense of humor? That Bill Burr does not have a sense of humor.
It was a compliment joke. And I'm done with him.
I mean, he's the comedian.
Done with him.
This is like him coming to you and saying, "Well, here I am. I'm the best boss around." He's not. You are.
I paid money to go see him, and I gave him a compliment.
So
joke.
he's supposed to laugh at your joke because you paid him?
It was a compliment joke.
Don't I see? I wouldn't do that. I mean, you're in the presence of greatness.
I'm done with him.
This is good stuff.
I mean, you're in the presence of Bill Burr. You don't tell jokes. It's like it's like meeting the Pope and saying, "Hey, here's the proper way to pray."
He wasn't a comedy routine. He was a Broadway play.
Doesn't matter.
No,
He's still Bill Burr.
No, I didn't ask for an autograph. I didn't do any of that. I just gave him a compliment joke, and he didn't even laugh. Pretended like I didn't say anything and moved it. Like, I'm done with him.
I don't think I've ever respected Bill Burr more than I do right now.
He sucks. Sucks so much.
Oh,
and then there was some like middle-aged white dudes. He laughed at their jokes, and they were not as good as mine.
They were not as funny as your jokes?
Yeah. No. I'm done. I don't even remember what my joke was, but I'm sure it was good.
Where's my sign?
I guarantee you it was not funny.
It was so good.
Whatever. No. This does not count. We're right back on the track. Watch this. Here, we're right back on track. You ready? Cody wants to know how the equipment staff looks. The equipment staff was totally ready for these
phenomenal.
OTAs. We actually were remarking on this yesterday. No lie. Tell them, Chris.
No, seriously. No, like, and the thing is that the players,
they love it.
They love the equipment guys.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I'm telling, like, you should see the way they interact with them on
Constant
the field,
motion,
in the locker room,
moving stuff around. They also, by the way, they can all throw the football, like really throw the football, because sometimes they're required to do that to help out in certain drills. It's crazy. I'm so glad somebody brought up the equipment staff there. They look great in OTAs. Denny says, will we see any Tampa 2 shells with Deshawn Elliott or Minka Fitzpatrick as that inside backer? I mean, you kind of did, Denny,
That's not really. I mean, you'd have to have a 3 safety look. I mean,
they do that though.
They do, but when they do the 3 safety look, one of them's in the box. And usually, if they ever do go into a cover 2 of some kind, and the safety is down low, they're usually going to be the hook curl defender or the curl flat defender. You're rarely going to see all 3 safeties go back, and 2 be the 2 high shell, and then the third be the really, really deep middle that you see in Tampa 2 as opposed to traditional cover 2. So I would still say that primary deep guy in Tampa 2 is going to be Patrick Queen.
Cody asks Chris if you can do a chalk talk on Joey Porter Jr.
We got a whole summer of chalk talks to do before training camp. So yes, one will be done eventually.
And going back to the opening of this episode, see how smoothly we move back to football? I brought up Joey, and I brought up Darius Slay, who spoke today, and by the way, showed up today. So this is another reason the OTA's attendance thing. He wasn't here yesterday. Oh no, he was here today. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's sometimes stuff happens. It's not a big deal. But the relationship between these two, the things that they can learn from each other. Okay, one of them obviously having a ton more experience. The other one may be playing a different style than Slay does. I think handsy is the operative term that we're going with these days. Here's 30 seconds of what Slay had to say today on that subject.
Great, man. Cause this is where you built. This is where it started off. This is where championship football started at. And with me, I came off the Super Bowl, and it's like everybody got to buy in. And this is the type of time that needs to be brought in. I know guys got families and stuff. I got one as well. But like, you want to be a champion. Some stuff you got to sacrifice. And so this is one of the jobs I want to sacrifice. Is coming here, being on time, being present, letting guys see my face, and let them know that it's important for me to be here, and I'm here to win.
The guy has pushed every button so far.
Oh, yeah.
And what matters way more than any of that, and you want to talk about Chris Chalk Talks, is Slay can still cover, can he not, Chris?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. When you look at not just the tape, but you look at the actual coverage metrics, he can still absolutely cover. But one of the main reasons why he's still able to do it is not because he's blazing fast anymore, because when you get to 34 years old, you're not as fast as you were at 24. And when Slay was coming out of college, he was one of the blazing fast guys coming out of college. But what you have to pick up over time in order to make yourself age really, really well is studying the game and knowing what you're seeing and trusting your eyes and reacting off of that. And Slay still does that at a very, very high level. He can diagnose and react still very, very quickly, very well. That's why he can play off the ball. That's probably why he plays off the ball more often than he'll play in press, because you need the physical traits to a certain extent to play in press, which Joey Porter Jr. has. Even though he's not the fastest guy, he's also got these, like, have been dawned on these guys, these avatar arms that, he can keep up with guys, and he's very physical and, knocks them off at the line of scrimmage. He's got the physical traits to run with those guys too. Slay doesn't necessarily have that anymore, but he can play off the ball and read and react very well, and he still does that at a very high level.
We can now call those Corey Trice arms.
Yeah. I'm curious now. I need to see who has longer arms, Porter or Trice, because they both have long arms.
The correct answer is a pterodactyl.
They're both very, very long. I know that.
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of that position, by the way, just in that regard. But where Slay is concerned, it's going to be neat to see, especially after this stuff that Elliott told me yesterday. I played it earlier in the program about getting more hands on the football and more takeaways. If you see an emphasis on the corners just being shut it down, because we want to load up on safeties and we don't necessarily want the safeties to be playing as safely as we had Minka playing for the better part of the 2024 season. And then you restore that sense of let's go after the football among your safeties, including the resumption of, what did he call it last summer? Minka ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
the James says here, it takes Minka 5 minutes to cross the river from where it is that he aligns.
And somebody, when we were talking about the safeties earlier, somebody did mention this, and I think I started. Said, mostly single high, wasn't it? Like, yes, actually, when we're talking about the whole Tampa 2 thing, there's a huge misconception that the Steelers run Tampa 2 more than anything else, because Mike Tomlin came from obviously the Buccaneers and obviously
and Tony Dungy and everything else. Yeah.
But no, the Steelers are primarily a cover 3 team. No team ran single high looks more than the Steelers last year. When you combine both cover 1 and cover 3, nobody ran single high looks more than the Steelers. So yeah, that's part of the way that they play defense. But what you can do is run a little bit less than that and run a little bit more cover 1, which is still single high looks, and cover 1 is a man coverage. So now you've got 2 guys on the outside in Porter and Slay who can man cover. And now that frees up one of your safeties. That could be Elliott on certain plays. That could be Minka on other plays. You could run cover 2, run 3 safeties. You could do a number of different things. But if you have cornerbacks that you can trust in man coverage, that opens up a lot of things that your safeties don't have to be, putting out fires all over the place like Minka's had to do for the last couple of years. By the way, I looked it up. Corey Trice actually has 32 and 3/8 inch arms, which are pretty long for a cornerback. Joey Porter has 34-inch arms.
Jeez.
So Porter's the one with the crazy long arms.
Well, that's how he wins in Seattle.
Oh,
think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Against what receiver was that?
Oh, DK Metcalf.
I'll bet that comes up a time or two this summer. Actually, it had to have already. They've been in the same building for a while.
Yeah.
Funny, when you talk to players about that, excuse me, they'll tell you that there's a moment of awkwardness where they have to overcome, either that they were heated rivals or that somebody really beat somebody at something else. And the funniest of all of those situations, by a mile, by a billion trillion miles, would be if Aaron Rodgers signs and Beanie Bishop walks up to him and says, "Hey, it's me. You're 2 picks? Yeah, what's up?"
I think didn't Aaron Rodgers send him one of the footballs that he that Bishop intercepted or something? I feel like there was something that happened there last year where Bishop got something from Rodgers on that for picking him off twice. I feel like there was something there. I can't remember now.
Hey,
There's
you'd
been
have to be a pretty good sport to go along with that. I'm not sure I'd do that. Like, get out of here, man. Go to hell. Take your stupid request.
Oh,
here.
somebody said Benny got both balls signed. So that means he sent, or somehow the balls got back to Aaron Rodgers and Rodgers signed them and gave them back to Beanie.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good sport, I guess.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I would think so here. How long are Bill Burr's arms? I don't know.
What are we doing?
Yeah, we're starting to lose our way here. We're not going to do that. We promised ourselves we were not going to do that today. I've had several questions about Mason Rudolph's mustache. Some are incorrectly referring to it as a goatee. He got rid of that. I'm blind with that stuff. I didn't even notice it. And then we put up the photo atop our site that I shot of the reporters gathering, and all you hear from everybody right after that is, "Oh, look at the mustache! Look at the mustache! What's he trying to do with that mustache? What's the deal with the mustache?" Whenever it's like, "Oh man, we need football so bad."
Yeah, I did notice, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, who cares? It's just facial hair. I mean, Cole Holcomb, he cut his mullet off. Like, guys,
that was like a Samson deal,
Oh man, yeah.
You can't. Cutting off the mullet in Pittsburgh is like not okay. Oh, okay. Wait, here it is from the boss. She remembered this was the joke. She said, "Oh, I remembered. It was, dude, is there something that you can't do?" This was the Broadway backstage doors I mentioned to you guys for Glenn Ross. And Burr looks at me and has zero reaction. Not cool, man. Not, it was a compliment. He was very good in it. Meanwhile, Michael McKean, Bob Odenkirk, my God, what a cast.
Bob Odenkirk is.
Can you imagine this all on a stage in front of you? Especially that, if you've never seen Glenn Ross as a movie or live, it's captivating.
Yeah.
We're all nice people. Everybody
but the punter was nice to her. Karen Culkin was nice to her. Donald Weber Jr. all super nice. He was. It's because I don't know who he is.
That's why he was nice.
Because he had to try harder because he was with these dudes. He's like, I'm here with Better Call Saul. I got to step up my game.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'll tell you what, though, out of all these guys, I mean, I would be most starstruck. And I'm, by the way, never, ever starstruck by sports people. Like, once you've covered Mario Lemieux, it's all easy. Okay.
Right.
But when it comes to Hollywood people, but especially musicians, like, not that they're one and the same.
Yeah.
If I meet somebody from one of my bands, I am protoplasm, man. I just fall apart.
Yeah.
Have you ever met somebody like that? Like, that's genuinely famous? Like music, Hollywood, TV, whatever.
So at the NFL annual meeting, there's usually always a couple of people that were there. Just one of those things where because they always have this one, like they call it a media reception. It's not really a reception. It's just a big party. It's what it is. And I turn the corner and Guy Fieri's there. I'm like, oh, there's Guy Fieri. All right. And then I turn the corner and there's like Serena Williams. And you're like, oh, okay, I am definitely out of my element here because I should not be in the same place as Serena Williams.
I was in a press conference,
yeah,
with both of the Williams sisters. I mean, I did 5 Olympics, so they were there for tennis and Andy Roddick and other, massive names. Of course, the biggest of all names in tennis, the fellow Serb Novak Djokovic. But again, once you I did 3 different Olympics in covering Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt and Katie Ledecky. And when you're in, I'm sorry, the sports thing is, I'm still looking at them and going, you know what, Michael and Usain and Katie, you're still not Mario, okay? Yeah. You're all like a notch down from Mario Lemieux. Probably the only other one that would come to mind from a sports one, but it was mostly just like awe more than anything else was Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, so that was definitely
it was just me and him. It wasn't like in some formal setting. It was just me and him at Latrobe atop that grass hill. I introduced myself, Mr. Green, reporter guy.
Yeah. No, the first time, so being on this beat, the first time I met Mean Joe was definitely something. But I think I was a little prepared for that because I guess my first sports one was whenever I was covering the Rangers and Nolan Ryan came to do.
That would do it.
Yeah, when Nolan, because they were releasing the Nolan Ryan documentary that came out a few years ago, and they did this whole thing there where he did a press conference and they debuted the documentary there, or they had a screening for it. I don't remember exactly what it was. There's been a lot of football and baseball in between now and then. But yeah, when Nolan came to do a press conference about it and we all got to chat with him afterward, that was definitely like, holy crap, I'm talking with Nolan Ryan, who's one of the 5, in my opinion, one of the 5 greatest pitchers of all time. So
he might be one of the 5 greatest baseball players of all time.
Yeah. Well, there are some people that don't think Nolan Ryan should be like top 5 pitchers of all time.
Because he pitched for the Rangers?
No, because the
Astros or whatever. It's just no.
If anything, he got what 2 of his no hitters with the Rangers, and he was
I meant just that they didn't win anything.
Oh no, I think that like every time I've had a debate with somebody about it, it's always been he was too hot and cold. Like whenever he was on, like he was the most unhittable pitcher ever, which comes with that's where 7 no hitters come from. But then when he was off, like you could hit him. Otherwise,
who cares?
Yeah, that's what I'm like 7 no hitters. And the year that he finished as runner up for Cy Young, I can't remember who won it. It was pitcher for the Orioles. I looked at the stats and everything like that. I don't know what the voters were smoking back then, but it should have been Nolan Ryan who won the Cy Young that year, because everything else it should have been Nolan.
Might have been Palmer.
I think it was Palmer.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to do another one of these tomorrow. Stay with us here. We've got to take care of some business here. See, there's more to these. Like Michael says, why do you get starstruck? They're all the same, 2 arms, 2 legs. That is one of the things that you learn. Okay, not just being when it comes to sports, I don't really have that. The one time that I was left speechless, this is going to mean almost nothing to anybody here, but my favorite Pirate as a youngster was Rennie Stennett, who had his career cut short by an accident at second base. He was the last player, by the way, in the majors to go 7 for 7, still to this day in a game. 7 for 7. It was obviously an extra inning game, but
right.
7 for 7 is 7 for 7.
Right.
Anyway, he was my favorite player, and I got to meet him. He passed a couple of years ago. It was a couple of years before that here at an event at PNC Park, and I was just floored. I mean, I was just floored. Other time, this was really embarrassing because it was over the phone. Like I didn't even meet him, but it was the bass player for XTC, Colin Moulding, who wrote probably about 1/3 of their music. Now, if I ever met Andy Partridge, the lead singer and the lead writer, or just talked to him on the phone, I would just be lying here dead.
Yeah, he would be more scared of you than you of him.
I would don't do that. Let's take care of some business. Eric and Callie came through with 5 gifts for us. Mr. Boku came in as a new member. That's appreciated here. Cody dropped a couple of bucks. Tom Haynes came in as a new member. Macaroni Salad's gotten into this habit now. You notice this? With the $5. Cody Silva came in with a couple, and whoa! How did I miss this?
Ooh.
Hans dropped a 50, and this is not a name that's a regular in this category. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hans. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thanks to all of you for not just watching this, but also for putting up with it, really.
Yeah.
No?
It can go off the rails. Like if we bleed into other sports every now and then, I don't consider that off the rails. But when we start talking about,
Layla wants to know if you can get this mug. You actually can.
Oh,
I'm going to put the link up for you here before we go off, so I can find it. There's a way that you can order that, and she doesn't have to ship it, which is great.
Also these
she
too.
does. Huh?
Also these two.
What's that?
Hoodies.
Oh, the hoodies and the shirts and everything here. I'm gonna put a link up, and you guys can copy it or whatever. Give me 1 second to just drop it into the live chat here. Unfortunately, it's a little wordy. But that's our online shop. Everything is there. It comes right to your place. We don't have anything to do with it. Actually, somebody else makes it, prints it. There it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, guys, do it again tomorrow. One more day of OTAs, Chris.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Oh, where are we memberships wise? She doesn't know. It's all right. We'll do it tomorrow. Suspense.
Hold on.
She would have had that answer for Bill Burr.
1250. 1520.
It's not either of those things. We'll have the correct.
520.
Oh, she said now it's a 2. Okay, 2,520 is the correct answer. So we're 480 away, says the math major, from the 3,000 that we need by opening the opening of Latrobe. All right. What is 7 for 7, says Reiner. Okay, in hockey, it's like scoring all 7 of your shots, Mr. Canada. All right. See you guys tomorrow.